Family and fellow soldiers, I'm the Professor, and this is the Moment of Truth. And now the Friday Crime Report. Buckle up, family, because we're going to do something of a deep dive into one of the biggest crime families in D.C. Not the Bidens necessarily, but the Boeberts. I mean, these people here, they have basically been the mafia of the Ozarks, and about as intelligent as you would expect. Everybody's probably already heard that police in Rifle, Colorado, yes, that's the name of the place, Rifle, Colorado, announced that they had arrested a ring of thieves responsible for numerous car break-ins and property thefts in the area. They were taking people's credit cards and racking up hundreds of dollars in fraudulent charges. Financial records and surveillance footage was used to track down 4 suspects, a group made up of 3 males and 1 female. Among this ring of thieves was Tyler Boebert, the son of Congresswoman Lauren Boebert. He was caught on surveillance video wearing a Shooter's Grill hoodie. Shooter's Grill was a restaurant that's now out of business, but it was owned by Lauren Boebert. Jail records show that Tyler faces 22 counts altogether, 5 of which are felonies. The charges include criminal possession of ID documents with multiple victims, conspiracy to commit a felony, first-degree criminal trespassing, and theft. Now, of course, if he was black, 3 strikes would have already long since been on the table, and this guy might as well call the penitentiary and make reservations. But because of racial privilege, predictably, this criminal, with 22 charges pending, was allowed to just go home on a pitiful $1,200 bond. Think about that. 22 charges, 5 of which are felonies. Judge decided, well, let's go ahead and treat this like a bunch of misdemeanors instead. They don't matter. He's being allowed to go home after posting a tiny bail, and as for his co-conspirators, the judge on the case has ordered that their names be redacted from the affidavit. So he's making sure that this theft ring remains secret, because they're not being treated any differently than anyone else, right? Frankly, I'm shocked that this has happened. I mean, everyone knows Lauren Boebert is the picture of restraint and white middle-class values. She has an impeccable reputation for being soft-spoken and respecting other people. I simply can't believe that one of her children would break so violently from the humble, peaceful example that she's set for them. Why, here's a picture of her with her kids. You can see the soon-to-be career criminal Tyler Boebert on the left wearing a Green Bay hoodie. I'll bet he's a fan of another criminal, Brett Favre. And there's also another 3 convicts in training also in the picture. I guess the public should count their blessings, though, and be glad that this degenerate only stuck to robbery and not mass murder. That's typical for his ilk. Though someone needs to keep an eye on those other 3 wannabe Scooter the Shooters, though. And this photo ought to send a chill down everybody's spines. Keep in mind, Ethan Crumbley, the mass shooter, his parents also bought him a gun for Christmas too, and he used that to commit a school shooting, and here we have 4 school shooters getting assault rifles for Christmas. I mean, what could possibly go wrong? Pictures like this should be taken as what they are, a threat to public safety. So Lauren Boebert's kids are criminals, but then again, it runs in the family. Lauren Boebert herself is a career criminal. The white media has thrown Boebert's criminal record down the memory hole, but we being the black media, we're going to go ahead and dredge it right back up again. This woman, before she was a member of Congress, she had been arrested numerous times and summoned to court also. One of Boebert's first known run-ins with the law took place in 2004, when she was involved in a violent altercation with her soon-to-be future husband, Jason Boebert. Bobert also had another run-in with the law in the fall of 2010, when a neighbor reported her for allowing her pit bulls to be on the loose. Bobert got off with a ticket for that one, but not for long because she then sent threatening texts to the woman who had called the police on her dogs, and she gave the middle finger to the woman's husband. Lauren Boebert? Giving someone the middle finger? Oh, say it ain't so! I don't know about you, but I can't think of any instance where Lauren Boebert's ever been rumored or ever said to have given somebody the middle finger, so I'm sure this must be an exaggeration or a lie by whoever that neighbor is, because there's no example of Lauren Boebert giving anyone the finger, right? So Lauren Boebert's been a class act for a long time. Anyway, the woman who she was threatening pressed charges, and while Boebert received a summons, the case was ultimately never pursued by the sheriff. Big surprise. But that's okay because Boebert was back in trouble with the law again a few years later. In 2015, she got into a verbal altercation with police and was detained. And why does she do that? Well, what happened was she saw some unruly teenagers who had been detained by the police for underage drinking, and rather than just be about her business instead, she decided to urge these teen hooligans to flee from the cops, which caused the young criminals to become unruly. When police arrested Boebert for this incitement, she tried to get away from them, tried to twist her way away from all the rest of resisting arrest. She said that the arrest was unconstitutional and that she had friends at Fox News. Now, this was in 2015, 5 years before she got elected to office. Gee, didn't she spend all of 2020 and every year ever since telling everyone how she backs the badge? The year that she was running for office, she was all on Twitter during the 2020 uprisings, posting messages saying that civil order and rule of law need to be restored. This from a woman who just a few years earlier was inciting drunk hooligans to resist the police. And then when the cops arrested her, she was resisting arrest also. She posed with the crooked cops, though, these days, and she smiles big for her website's front page. When she was campaigning, she was telling everyone that she backs the blue, stands with law enforcement. But a few years earlier, she was telling drunk teenage kids to F the police. Boebert was predictably released by the cops after this and told to appear in court that August. Of course, she didn't bother to show. She wrote a note to the judge saying she forgot what day her court appearance had been scheduled for. The judge, understanding that this was not a black defendant, happily rescheduled her case, but she didn't show up for that rescheduled court date either. She didn't even bother to give an excuse for that absence. Boebert was eventually arrested by the sheriff's office, but you won't be surprised to learn that racial privilege was sufficient to get her out of trouble with prosecutors. They chose to decline the case to prosecute. They said that they didn't think they could get a conviction. Then why was she even arrested? Keep in mind, all of this was happening a decade before this skank even ran for Congress, so this was not a matter of she's just higher class or higher status. This was a question of race, genetic immunity from the law. Summer of 2016, Boebert rolled her car into a county ditch and was charged with careless driving and unsafe operation of a vehicle. Boebert also skipped that court date too, shocker. She was eventually arrested several months later, but she only spent a mere 100 minutes in custody before she was right back out on bond. She pleaded down the charges and that was the end of that. And of course the white sheriff and his pals downplayed her long criminal record when they were confronted about it. They said, "To me, that doesn't represent somebody who is engaging in criminal behavior." So she has numerous arrests, including for trying to turn a mob of drunk teen criminals on the cops, and this sheriff said that this doesn't represent someone who's engaging in criminal behavior. What's his idea of a crime? Being black. So this is who Lauren Boebert is. The white media's not telling you about this mile-long record of criminal charges, now are they? So no wonder her kids have all turned out to be career criminals too, because their mother's one. But she's not the only convict in the family. Lauren's now ex-husband, Jason Boebert, was arrested in January of 2004 for exposing himself to two young women at a Colorado bowling alley. Lauren Boebert, who was 17 at the time and apparently romantically involved with Jason, she was there when it happened. Jason Boebert pleaded guilty to public indecency and lewd exposure, and he got a slap on the wrist as his punishment. And before I go any further, it's now been revealed that Tyler Boebert, the burglar, has a sex tape. This clown only just turned 18, and he's got a sex tape that he made with one of his criminal conspirators, the female, I think, in this case. I mean, this mess is just like something out of Deliverance, isn't it? These people are the reason incest needs to stay illegal. So now we know that Lauren Boebert, when she was groping and fondling her date in that theater last year, this is just Boebert family values. This is just what the Boeberts do. For them, public indecency is normal. Only 1 month after Jason Boebert had his little incident at the bowling alley, he was arrested again, this time for domestic violence. He was charged with physically assaulting Lauren Boebert this time. And then 3 months after that, Lauren Boebert attacked him, as I explained earlier. She scratched his face and chest and thrashed their residence. She got a third-degree assault charge along with a criminal mischief and underage drinking charges. And because these people are so well adjusted, a year later, Lauren and Jason Boebert decided they just had to get married. Personally, I'm shocked these two ever got divorced. I mean, their relationship had been one big fairy tale, hadn't it? And you won't be surprised to find out that Jason Boebert still can't stay out of trouble with the law. He was arrested on misdemeanor charges just last month for 2 separate incidents. The first one was when he got into yet another argument with Lauren Boebert at a restaurant. The police had to forcibly remove Jason from the establishment, so he got a disorderly conduct charge along with a third-degree criminal trespass and obstructing a peace officer. Let's hear it for backing the badge. 3 days after that, though, Jason was involved in a physical fight with their son, Tyler the car thief. Apparently, Jason saw Tyler's baby, his grandson, sleeping in a laundry basket. Tyler claimed that it was safer to put the kid in the laundry basket as opposed to putting him on a bed because the kid might fall off of it. Jason allegedly took the baby and put him in another room, and then he came back and started punching Tyler in the legs, I guess as a means of trying to correct Scooter Jr.'s behavior. The two got into a fight over Tyler's cell phone after Tyler had called Lauren. Lauren told him to call the police, and Jason then went and got a rifle. This resulted in him being arrested again. So the Boebert family circus has started 2024 with a bang. I mean, they are just one big family crime wave. These people simply cannot obey the law. And if Lauren Boebert wasn't a member of Congress already, she would have already been arrested for that indecent display she put on in that theater. So we would have a trifecta of jailbirds. Behold the party of family values, the party of dressing demurely when in public and making sure that your family is represented well. Behold the party of law and order, the party of back the badge. But as we all know, immunity from punishment based on race is the totality of the law. This family has done nothing but break the law for 20 years straight and put their perverted behavior on display for all the world to see. All Tyler was doing was going into the family business. And as we saw with Lauren, she was getting that white privilege pass from the law long before she even thought about running for Congress. And the same with her now ex-husband. So we can be disgusted, but given how these white supremacists operate, it couldn't have gone any other way. Now, of course, you're obviously thinking that at this point, Lauren Boebert would have no choice but to drop out of the congressional race that she's pathetically trying to win. She moved from her home district to another one on the other side of the state because she was down in the polls at home. But her new would-be district isn't looking any better for her than her home district did. There were already a bunch of good old boys in that part of the state who have been waiting for their turn to run for that congressional seat. The local politics and the players are different. And for Lauren to think that she can just parachute in out of nowhere and poach in somebody else's territory, she's beyond stupid. She figured that because she had made a whole bunch of appearances on Fox News and that CNN and MSNBC said critical stuff about her, she figured that her name recognition would automatically translate into popularity, especially with those local yokels, because more of the white right-wing racist rubes would be familiar with her. This, you'll recall, is the exact same stupid strategy that Ron DeSantis thought that he would pull. All that asinine attention whoring he was doing, passing blatantly racist laws, making a sideshow out of himself, anything to get on Fox News tonight. Yeah, people knew who Ron DeSantis was. He was certainly able to build up his name recognition. But that was the entire problem. The more people saw of DeSantis, the less they liked him. Having a high profile is only one step on the ladder to getting a large following. The next step is to be someone who people will actually like, and DeSantis is objectively unlikable. And the same goes for Lauren Boebert. Sure, her antics played for a while with the white right, but she's dumb as a brick, and her personal life, though personal strife would be a better word, has come to overshadow anything that she's attempted to do in the legislative arena. Though truth be told, we all know that she really hasn't done anything in Congress. How many laws bear her name? Hell, how many bills do? She tried to get one through, and that's what led to a little spat on the floor of the House between her and Marjorie Greene. From her domestic violence issues with her husband, to her teenage son becoming a teenage father, to her deciding to make out in a packed theater and then lying about it afterwards, and now this. Lauren Boebert seems more like a walking circus, and it would be bad enough if she was merely making a fool of herself in Washington, but it's her personal life at home that's making her unelectable. She can spout all the MAGA talking points she wants. The political players in her new would-be district, they don't want her there. And the voters don't see her as anything other than a distraction. She can't control her marriage or her children, and as everyone saw with that raunchy theater display, she can't even control herself. Who wants to vote for that? See, Lauren Boebert, like the rest of the racist right, figured that all she had to do was spout the anti-black talking points, scream and rant and rave about all the things she hates, black people that is, and the racist rubes the GOP calls their base would slavishly follow her. Well, that might have worked if she was the only person doing that song and dance, but every Republican's been doing some variation on it, and she has to bring more to the table than just a 10-gallon hat and some laughably fake implants. Well, if nothing else, she'll be ready to start her next career in porn. She's not smart enough to be a political player. Hell, Marjorie Greene, who doesn't have the sense that God gave a dog, was just smart enough to start aligning herself with the GOP party leaders as opposed to Matt Gaetz and his wacky pals. Greene, in spite of herself, at least marginally stumbled into something resembling an intelligent position within the party. Boebert, on the other hand, hasn't been anywhere near so politically pragmatic. Her career trajectory is looking a lot less like Elise Stefanik and a lot more like Madison Cawthorn. At this point, Lauren Boebert has to stay in the race, at least for now. She can't withdraw because being a lifelong Congress member, that is her retirement plan. Seriously, what's she going to do if she's not in Congress? Is she going to try to become a commentator on Fox News? Will she try to do a podcast or something in media? She's not smart enough or connected enough to try to start a political consulting hustle like Rudy Giuliani did. Boebert is the matriarch of a family of crooks and a bunch of sexual deviants and perverts, and she's not alone. Joe Biden was trashing the black community as all being a bunch of criminals, and predictably it was his son and his daughter, but especially his son Hunter, who's the biggest drug addict crook on the planet. So when you see these white supremacists attacking the black community, they do it in the desperate hope of getting attention off of themselves. All of them are hypocrites. All of them are liars. There's no good guys to root for here, and if you're looking for any, you're a fool. So while we're all having a good laugh at Lauren Boebert's humiliation and basking in the warm glow of her political dreams going up in flames, just remember, we've been here before with Lauren Boebert. White privilege has proven itself to be a hell of an insulator even against things like this. The white media, and I'm talking about the so-called leftist-leaning media, has made it a point to give Boebert space on this one. Her criminal past has largely been overlooked, as has her husband. Oh, there's been a couple of mentions of her hoots and hollers, but nobody's making the connection. Hey, there's a whole family of criminals here. Nobody's wanting to connect the dots. And it's not because this punk is like some sort of teenage father. It's like, well, we want to go easy on the kiddies. That ain't the reason. We know what the real reason is. A, racial privilege. That's the big one. And two, while Biden has himself avoided getting into any violent fights with Jill and avoided any embarrassing arrests, Hunter, on the other hand, hasn't been so lucky. Drugs, police encounters, questionable business arrangements, it's all there. Even if you take the professional courtesy that the white media gives to those with racial privilege, you also have that they can't really go in on Lauren Boebert without exposing Biden to many of the same accusations. So this is all about making sure that when it comes to teenagers of a certain racial persuasion, well, we need to make certain that people understand these are just exceptions, or at the very least, we're burying this. Okay, maybe it's not an exception, but we're going to go ahead and bury it. Don't put in the affidavit. We're not giving any names. And no, the white media is not going to fixate on this. If they were black, on the other hand, we'd already have their faces, their names. We'd already have articles talking about any sort of rumors or accounts of any disciplinary problems that they had in school. Remember, the Aryan propagandists, that is the AP, they actually filed suit so that they could get their hands on Trayvon Martin's school disciplinary records. They were looking for anything that they could use to point and say, oh, yeah, he's a violent black teenager. Meanwhile, George Zimmerman, whose criminal record was already well known and already public, they weren't so interested in that. They totally ignored that because it goes against their narrative. Now, Boebert was involved in her little thug's life from day one. He is what she made him, just as Joe Biden has been involved in Hunter Biden's life from day one, and look how he turned out. You know, it's a damn shame when the family portrait happens to be a lineup of mugshots. When you got the father, the mother, and the son, all of them with matching mugshots, that's how you know you done messed up. But don't expect to have any of these super PACs or any of these PACs at all who are going ahead and connecting the dots and reminding people, hey, this is what Lauren Boebert has been raising in her home. No, they're not going to be doing that. What they'll claim is, well, she's down in the polls in her new would-be district that she's desperately trying to get to vote for. So you really don't have to go there. Give me a break. If Lauren Boebert was black, they would already have been gone in on her. The white media, CNN, MSNBC, they all would have. There wouldn't have been any, but it's just the kids like, nah, this is how she runs her household, and people need to know about it. So that's the reason why they're treating her with kid gloves. The dominant society wouldn't react very well if you're showing them a white teenager who's being held up as just a prototypical thug, and his mother's being put on the hot seat. They would look at that and go, well, you're not supposed to be treating us like that. That's what would happen, and everybody knows it. Well, the white media is in the business of covering up the truth, but over here in the black media, exposing the truth, that's our stock and trade. So now you've been given a little summary of the Boebert crime family. Not really much different or better than the Biden crime family. I mean, they're all a bunch of freaking criminals. But this is the woman here who was talking about back the badge after she was fighting the badge. This is the woman talking about family values when she herself was getting knocked up early and now her son is walking in her putrid footsteps. Everybody in the family's got matching mugshots. Everybody in the family has violent altercations. Everybody in the family's a bunch of sexual degenerates and perverts. And all of them keep getting slaps on the wrist. As pathetic as it is to say, we're basically living in Lauren Boebert's America. God help us. And that's this week's Friday Crime Report. Keep your eyes open and stay on alert, because there's a lot worse criminals out there than the ones the white corporate media chooses to show you. Good day, and be one. I'd like to take a moment to mention some of our contributors. Esfayo Dingaswayo, Deep Eye 904, Eric Boykin, Derek, and Kenneth Prescia. Salute to them and thank you to everyone for listening, liking, and sharing this message. Black empowerment only exists because of you.